working with pre-health students. Okay, we're being recorded, that's fine. All right. So our offices, even though they're separate, we collaborate closely to help students with their pre-health needs. My office specifically works with health professions advising. So if you want to become a doctor, a dentist, a pharmacist, that kind of thing, I work specifically with that subgroup of NSM students, where Shonda, you work with all NSM students. And I work with, yeah, and it doesn't matter what major you're in. So if you have a friend who's a psychology major and wants to get advising from me on how to be a psychiatrist, they can most definitely come see me.
Awesome. Great. So as we get started, just some housekeeping rules and objectives to please try to keep yourself on mute during the session. So that way we don't have any outside noise. Try to save questions to the end because we will have a Q&A, but you can also use the chat box if you wanted to ask a question. We are recording this session, so I will email you all after this presentation with a copy of the recording, and so that way you because I know we'll also be talking about we'll refer a lot to links and resources, and so that way you don't have to copy everything down now. I'll send you a copy that you can use later. And really the goal was for pre-health students to really learn about the services the Health Professions Advising Office and the Career Center offers you all as Cal State Fullerton students. So the way that this presentation will go is we'll have Dr. Mutapa go over the Health Professions Advising Office, and then I'll share about the Career Center resources, and then we'll have time for question and answers from you all. I did want to run a poll for you all to kind of participate, and here we wanted to see who was in the room. So I'm going to launch this poll right now, and so if you can fill that out. Oopsie, actually. Okay, yeah, if we could do that one question. So the questions really is curious on, question is, have you looked at the Health Professions Advising Office website? Have you looked at the Career Center website? Have you talked to someone at the Health Professions Advising Office? And have you talked to someone at the Career Center? And it's definitely okay if you haven't done any of that. It was just kind of to see who's in the room. Okay, I'll give it another second. Awesome. Okay, and polling. Let me share the results. Okay, so majority of people have not visited the Health Professions Advising Office website. More people have looked at the Career Center website. Right, and majority of you have not talked to either office, right? And so that was kind of the goal today too, so that you all have a face to the Health Professions Advising Office and the Career Center, and you'll learn about our resources. The next poll question I have, and one more. Oh, where is?
And just as an FYI, you'd be seeing us. So you're not going to see someone completely different. When you go to the Career Center, you will see Shonda. If you go to the Health Professions Advising Office, you will see me, because we're small little shops, but we work closely one-on-one with students.
Exactly. Great, and then I'll be launching another poll question is getting to know you all of what kind of health profession are you interested in pursuing, since there are so many different kinds of health professions. We got medicine student, pre-med students, dental, optometry, pharmacy, PA, veterinary, so many and more. So if we didn't list the health profession you're interested, you could definitely mention that in the chat box, just so we may, touch on that or things like that, just out of curiosity of who's here today. You can select more than one choice, because I know sometimes students are in between or are open to maybe applying, open to different programs or professions at this moment in time. Okay, so majority in the room are pursuing medicine, 64%. Great, and then 23% PA, physician assistant, and then we got dental, and then we have some nursing. Great. Thank you.
And we advise for all the above as well. Even though there is a School of Nursing for advising as well. I don't know about you, Shonda, but sometimes I've ended up talking to students about nursing.
Yes, definitely. Me too. Yeah. And in a former life, I was a nursing advisor, so that is a perk.
Okay.
A perk I have, when I meet with NSM students who try to go nursing. And I do meet NSM students who later get into master's programs directly from from getting a bachelor's degree, like in bio or something after.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so let's see. Okay, so we'll have, well, here, Dr. Matapa, I'll take it. Here you go.
I can turn off the sharing poll results, huh?
Oh, is that still on?
I mean, I see it, but it looks like I can close that window.
Oh yeah, let me stop the share. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I guess I still have to close it. Well, I was able to close it. Maybe everybody else has to do this.
Oh,
We
okay.
could get it off. I don't know. Yeah, so all the professions, the health professions advising office, we do advise for all of these. I have been on an admissions committee for medical school before, so I also have the perspective of what admissions committees are looking for in a general sense. Um, our office does also do advising for some of the allied health professions. Some of the common ones are occupational therapy, public health, and physical therapy. But I will say the bulk of our students are interested in medicine. But I did see that some of you are interested in optometry, veterinary, physician assistant. We have it all. And then even I do exploration with other health professions. Maybe you want to be a clinical lab scientist, or I tell you about it based on your interest. I think, well, maybe you'd like to be a clinical lab scientist. So Career Center and us, we try to help you discover in some cases. If you feel like you're a little bit more uncertain, but you want to be in a health profession, we can give you some ideas based on what's out there and what we've seen our students get into in the past as well. So we can go on. Okay, so, well, we are going officially, as of now, back to the office August 2nd. And I'm located in Gordon Hall, room 223, so second floor. Our office is open Monday through Friday, 12 months out of the year. So we don't like close I'm sure you get that question all the time, Shonda. Are you open over the summer? Or, do you work over this? Do you even work, Shonda? We do. In fact, as Shonda mentioned, summer is oftentimes a good time to get advising from us because we're not flooded with tons of students trying to figure out when to register for what classes, which is a very busy time for most of us. To set up an appointment with me is pretty easy. You just go to www.fullerton.edu/health professions, and then you click on that. You see all the time slots I'm available for, like weeks in advance even. And it's in 20-minute increments. If I don't have somebody after you, I can always, stick around and talk to you longer. We got used to doing Zoom and phone calls also. I mean, we had to do that 100% for the past year and a half. So what's going to happen is we're just going to keep that option so that people have the option to come in person if they want to come in person, or do Zoom or phone call if that's more convenient for you. I noticed a lot of people I did advising, they'd be in their car, like on their way back home from work, or, just in between in their lunch break from work. So we're happy to be flexible, accommodating. One day a week, I think I'm going to try to have like a 6 to 8 p.m. slot, so that people want to see me later. If you just want to do a quick question, or you don't want to make an appointment, just want to ask me a quick question, or if normal hours aren't as conducive to your schedule, you can always send me a quick email to mmou, well, it's right there, yeah, the fullerton.edu address, and I check that email every day. So anyways, we will forewarn you about parking. There is parking. Sometimes it takes a while to find a spot. So when you come for anything in person, when it comes to these kind of appointments, give yourself plenty of time. But then, of course, there's always Zoom. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, you know what? So people can get easily confused. We are a big campus with 40,000 students. So because of that, we have a lot of staff. And so there's a lot of different advisors you can end up seeing for that reason. And so honestly, it doesn't really matter who you end up seeing first, because if we find that what your needs are can be answered better by another advisor, we know them all, and we might say, oh, go to Shonda. She has ideas about internships and things like that. And so anyways, I'll just kind of give you a run through, and, don't feel like you have to memorize all this. If you end up at one place, they'll refer you to the place you need to go if needed. So first of all, you will have an advisor in your department. I think usually for some of the NSM departments, they do like group advising first, right, Shonda, like bio? Like their
Yes.
first year, they do group advising, so you get to meet your advisor in a kind of a classroom setting. And so they know best about your major requirements. So you have, for your degree at Cal State Fullerton, you have, let's say if you're a biochem major, there are classes you have to do to satisfy your biochemistry degree. And your department major advisor knows that stuff the most. I mean, I think a lot of us know because we've seen, transcripts and stuff, and we kind of know, but they're the ones who know the most, who are closest at hand with that information. Retention specialists are the College of NSM advisors. So that's not Shonda, it's retention specialists specifically supporting NSM students in their academic success, particularly first and second year students. Um, you might end up seeing them if you feel like, oh, is this the right major for me? Or I'm kind of struggling in this class or that class. So retention means we're trying to keep you alive and healthy your first couple of years. That's when you think of retention, think of it that way. Graduation specialist, well, think of it for your third and fourth year, because at that point you're beginning to think about graduation, making sure you got all your requirements done properly. There's nothing missing, no surprises. So that's when you start talking to your graduation specialists in your third and fourth year. So we can go on to the next slide. And then there's general education advisors. So one thing about your degree at Cal State Fullerton, there's two parts to it. There is your major, and then everybody, it doesn't matter what major you are, everybody has GE or general education to do. And so there are GE advisors at the Academic Advisement Center. So so when it comes to your major advisor, there's like one person. When it comes to retention, graduation, there's one or two people. GE advisors is a pretty big office because they service all majors across all colleges. But they know GE very well, inside out, upside down. Section A, B, C, D, E, Z, and anything new, they know it all. We can give you advice on what GEs to take that might coincide with some prerequisites for, let's say, medical school. But just in general, the ins and outs about GE, they know it well. Of course, then you have Shonda at the Career Center, and she is specifically designated for all NSM students. She's great to talk to, work with, who knows a lot about MSM related careers, and she's going to talk about more about that for 20 minutes. And then there's me. Any students who have an interest in health-related professions to prepare themselves for that career. I end up seeing students a lot of times even after they graduate, because we know so often that students, there's so many things. Not only do you have to do the classes to be able to apply to medical school, for example, you need to also get experience in a clinical setting. Research experience is also helpful, community service. So sometimes students don't get it all done by the time they graduate to be able to apply. So sometimes I end up seeing students a year or two past graduation, and that's no problem for me. I understand that. So, all right. Confused, as I mentioned, any of the places, we are great at referring as needed. And then when we do the referrals, you'll better understand who to ask what kind of questions, but especially in the beginning, we don't expect you to know these kind of things. So just your job is to be proactive and ask, just start somewhere. Don't sit by yourself and wonder, and I don't know, and I'm not going to ask because I'm shy. Just ask somebody, and then at least you'll get pointed in the right direction. And sometimes you'll have to have patience to get, maybe you have to get referred and you have to go talk to someone else, but, we'll get you there. Next slide. Okay, typical questions students ask me. For example, what classes do I need to get into the health professions? We often talk about, well, some of these prerequisites for dental school coincide with your major, and then some of these GE classes you could take to fulfill some prerequisites for dental school as well. So we kind of figure all that stuff out together. And we're pretty experienced in doing that, at least, yeah. How to map out your course schedule. So we think about, okay, do you work also? If so, we have to kind of be cognizant of like how many units you'd want to take and space it out correctly. level of difficulty, maybe some easier classes mixed in with the more difficult ones, so you don't have too hard of a schedule in one given semester. You know, a lot of students ask me, do I have good enough grades to get into the health professions I'm interested in? We can always talk about those things. And, you know, I never like turn people away because, oh my God, you don't have a good enough GPA. We never have that kind of conversation. But what we do is talk about a plan to increase your GPA. And if you do that, what are some options for you? And maybe in some cases, thinking about alternatives is good as well. But we would never turn you away just on the basis of, even if you end up on academic probation, you could still see us. Don't be ashamed. We can help you out still. How can I get more experience? Well, a lot of times I refer students to our student clubs. I'm familiar with some of the experiences that some of our pre-health students have taken in the past, and I can kind of make those recommendations, as can Shonda. What do I need to do to stand out as an applicant? From my experience being on a med school admissions committee for 3 years, I feel like I have a good point of view in that sense to give you some ideas. And the basic answer is you want to be yourself, but be your best self, of course. How do I ask for a letter of recommendation? Well, yeah, we talk about what and how and those kind of things. Who is the best one to get, and when do I want to ask, and how do I ask? And bottom line is, if I gave quick advice for that, stay in touch with people who you hope to get letters of recommendation for, even if it means just a little Christmas card, a visit to their office once a year or twice a year. Great. Can you even review my personal statement, give me feedback? I do that. Shonda does that as well. We're used to doing that. I have been an editor for a journal for 6 years. So I get all excited when, oh, we have to like trim this down to 5,300 characters. Okay, let's get to we got it done. So I enjoy doing that kind of stuff and getting to know you by reviewing your personal statement when you apply to dental school, pharmacy school, etc. I am getting interviews. So again, our office, the Health Professions Advising Office, and Shonda's office at the Career Center, we do interview practice as well. And Shonda, we should probably do some mock interview sessions when we go back in person, because I think students like that.
All right, that's a good idea.
Yeah. All righty, next slide. I'm sorry if I'm getting too blabby, Shonda. If I am, I'll just hurry up more. But typical question.
It's good content. It's good.
Okay, good. Typical questions I ask students: how's your work-life balance going? Because yeah, it's ideal to do 18 units a semester, but if you're working 40 hours a week and you're caretaking your mom, it might be a little hard to do all of the above. So we can kind of troubleshoot and see what works best for you, and what your friend does doesn't, you can't compare yourself to them. You have to figure out what's best for you, and we can kind of help you do that. How well have you been managing in your time to study? We're all kind of individual in that. Some of us are further along than others. Even I kind of lose my discipline and I start looking, oh, what's on my, oh, yeah, so we talk about those kind of things. Our college class is a lot harder for you than it was in high school. And that's an important thing to bring up, because if that is the case, I would rather give you a little bit of an easier course load in the beginning for you to get used to college, and then you can shine when it comes to the classes that really matter for whatever you're trying to apply to. And it's not a lack of smartness or anything. It's just maybe whatever different schools are different in terms of how you got prepared for college. So, we can always talk about those kind of things. Have you discovered which study skills work best for you in college? Yeah. You know what? When you come to our campus, you'll want to get busy figuring out, you might realize when you take biology 151, for example, oh my God, there's so much stuff to retain here. Well, this is a tough, time to ask yourself, okay, am I more of a visual learner, an auditory learner? Am I kinesthetic and I have to write stuff down? These are things, if you can identify it sooner, better. We talk about those things too. Which classes are you enjoying the most right now? Because maybe you ended up taking something that you really thought you'd like, and then you're realizing, it's perfectly okay to shift gears if you wanted to. and still pursue the career that you're interested in, it's perfectly okay. We can troubleshoot with you. What are the biggest challenges you have in reaching your career goals? For different people, it's different. It could be just the academic transition for you. It could be you're a first generation student to go to college. It could be financial challenges, any of the above. Good to talk about these things and be upfront about it, because the more you talk about it, the more we can troubleshoot and kind of address those issues. What do you like most about the profession that you're getting into? Because it's kind of a marathon. So, it's good to figure out over time, what do I like about this so that I stay on track and keep accomplishing my goals to get there. And and then lastly, just the timing of when you're going to be ready to apply. Again, what your friend does may not be what you do. You might end up applying a year or two later than them, and that's perfectly okay. It doesn't mean you're less than or anything like that. I think different people need different plans just based on their unique situations. So there you go. Next slide. Information. Okay. Services and resources our office provides. There's a lot of pre-health student organizations on our campus, and several of them are. And I'm the faculty advisor for several of them, and/or they work closely with our office. Titan Link, I think it is, right, Shonda, that has all the student clubs. You can find them. But we have information about a lot of them as well. Binder. So back in the day when we were in person, I used to go to conferences. Well, you could still go virtually, but I used to pick up a lot of flyers about different schools, different programs, all these unique ones. So we still have those. If you felt like flipping through and just, oh, I never thought about being a respiratory therapist, there might be a flyer about it in there. Intent to apply is a service that our office does, which takes up quite a bit of our time as well. It basically prepares people to apply to professional schools. We help you with your letters of recommendation in terms of forwarding it to the centralized application you need to sign up for to get to apply, basically. We also have a minor. It's called the Pre-Health Professions Minor. We could talk about that as well. You can always decide a little later on if you want to join that minor. You don't have to do it immediately. And one thing exciting that we do have is our linkage agreements, which are conditional early acceptance agreements. So for example, we have a linkage agreement with pharmacy school at Western University. And I've had, these days they want to look at sophomores and juniors more, see what kind of grades they've had. And if they have a little bit of experience in the field, let's say pharmacy, and they seem pretty promising in that regard, they'll give you an acceptance where they'll say, we're going to reserve you a seat in our pharmacy school 2 years from now, as long as you complete your degree, have certain grades, and you keep coming for some meetings with our school so that we better prepare you for when you actually get there. So that's an example of a linkage agreement we have. We also have small scholarship opportunities like $500 here, $1,000 there, just little ones. Next slide. So this is just a link of some of our student organizations. I noticed that there was a couple of you who were interested in optometry. We do have a pre-optometry club, and that's what it's called. We do have a few options for at least a few pre-med type of clubs. There's the American Medical Student Association, the Latino Medical Student Association. Flying Samaritans, they go to El Hongo, Mexico, driving. It's not too far past the border. And they go with a few healthcare professionals and they basically open a clinic for the day and help people who otherwise don't have healthcare. So they do that trip once a month. We have the Pre-Dental Society for those who want to be a dentist. If you happen to be Spanish speaking or have taken enough classes to have some level of fluency in Spanish, you might be interested in Spanish for health services. You don't even have to be a Spanish speaker, really, but you learn, basically in that club, you learn medical terminology in Spanish, which is an excellent skill to have. So for those of you who are bilingual or multilingual, that is an excellent skill to have as a health professional in the future, because they want people to be able to speak Spanish, Vietnamese, different languages that their patients speak who may not necessarily speak English. Oh, and I remember there was a couple of pre-vet students. We do have a pre-vet club, and they could definitely use more members in their club as well. So those are things, not only you get to hear from guest speakers, but you also get to meet people who have similar students who have similar interests as you. So we can move on to the next slide. Intent to apply. So this is when, this is nothing that you have to officially sign up for, but you could keep coming for advising. And intent to apply is a process that if you want to turn in an application to get a letter of recommendation from our office, you can get that, which will be included in your application. People have to have at least a 3.2 science GPA. So people wonder what science classes are. They're math, biology, chemistry, and physics. So if they have a 3.2 science GPA, 3.2 overall GPA, which is basically close to a B+ average, you would be considered for a letter of recommendation from our office. You also have to have a minimal level of experience in the field as well, at least a few hundred hours. So that's what you'd fill out an application for to get that committee letter. And the reason you have to fill out that application is so that we have enough good information about you to write the great letter for you. And regardless of whether or not you get the committee letter, you do the application to get the committee letter. Anybody who's applying to professional schools, I can review your personal statements and essays, as can Shonda at the Career Center. And for those who use our intent to apply service, they are eligible for a few of our scholarship opportunities. Next slide. The minor. So the minor allows NSM students to double count a lot of their coursework. So for example, your chemistry 120A and B, your organic chemistry, which is 301A, the math that you take will all count towards the minor. But then on top of it, just to kind of diversify your education, to get the minor, you also have to take a class like epidemiology. You have to take psychology and sociology, which are both helpful classes to take for the Mcat exam if you're going to do medical school. So basically your science classes would count, and then on top of it, you'd be doing about 4 to 5 non-science classes. And those are the prerequisites. You have to take as I mentioned, the general chemistry, biology, and math. And you have to get a B or better in all these classes in the minor. And the reason why we have that rule is not to be mean, but to keep you competitive to get into these professional schools in the first place. So we can move on over. Okay, linkages. I was kind of told you the example of the pharmacy student who got into a linkage program. The nice thing is, if you are doing a linkage, you don't have to bother applying to other schools, because if Western has accepted me for pharmacy school and I'm going to go there 2 years later, I don't need to bother to apply to other schools, because as long as I keep my end of the bargain, I finish my degree, I get, and usually the requirements aren't crazy, like, oh, I have to have a 4.0 GPA. It's more like a, depends. But I think for pharmacy, it's not even a 3.0. It could be a little less than that. As long as I keep my end of the deal, I'm in, and I don't have to stress out about applying to other places or interviewing in other places. I don't have to pay application fees. It's all free. So that's the nice thing about linkages. We can go to the next slide. These are the linkages that we currently have. Lake Erie College of Medicine is LECOM right here. And we have it for osteopathic medical school, which is DO, dentistry and pharmacy. We have one with Western University for several of their schools, osteopathic medical school, podiatry school, pharmacy school, and dentistry. And, you don't have to be an underserved minority, but that is, I would say, people who are either underserved minority students and or people who have served in underserved communities is something that they're looking for. Marshall B. Ketchum for their pharmacy school, and actually for their PA school. So we have 2 different things for Marshall B. Ketchum. For the PA school, they will guarantee interviews to up to 5 students who qualify. And part of the qualification process is becoming an active member of the Physician Assistant Coming Together Club, which is PACT, which is probably on the list of the student organizations I gave you. We just saw a few slides ago. So that's an excellent opportunity right there as well. For medical schools, we have linkage agreements with some of the offshore/Caribbean schools that you've heard of in the past, which are reputable ones. We don't send you off to schools that are not reputable. And in fact, I had a meeting today with American University of Caribbean. We don't have a linkage with them, but they're kind of all similar schools. Um, these are good backup kind of schools to consider for your medical school choice. We've had many students get in and do well in American University of Antigua, St. George's University, and Ross School of Veterinary Medicine. So we can go on to the next slide. Okay, well, we're not going to do the whole poll thing because we don't have that kind of time. But let's do some trivia questions because, okay, I know you're going to be asked number one by your relatives, friends, family, whoever. You know, well, you really want to do medicine, but why are you at Cal State Fullerton? It's going to get hard. It's going to be harder to get into medical school. Why did you go there? Why didn't you go to UC Irvine? You know, you're going to be asked that. And the answer is for this one, of course, I'm biased, but the answer is actually false. You know, just looking at data of our students who got into medical school from Cal State Fullerton, their average GPA was 3.66 last year. And the national average of students who got in across, you know, it doesn't matter if they were Stanford, Irvine, whatever, national average was 3.66. So we're right there on par. You know, if you had to be, you know, if we weren't on par, you know what would happen? The average student who got into Cal State Fullerton would have to be like a 4.0, and that's not the case. So they're looking, you know, these admissions committees are looking at applicants regardless of what school they went to. Just so you know that, just tell your friends and relatives that, okay? So they don't make fun of you, or they they say not to, they know not to ask you that anymore. Number two, if I get a C in one of my prerequisite classes, I cannot get into health professional school. I've had meetings like Dr. Mustafa, I got a C in organic chemistry. It was so hard. Do I have to look up, should I be a nurse now? Or, you know, something like that, something like that. You know, yeah, I mean, a C is a little bit of a bump in the road, but as long as you don't make that a consistent pattern, you know, you still have chances for sure. When I was on the admissions committee, you know, we had a doctor who said, oh, I was on academic probation my first year as a freshman. How to find research opportunities. You know what? I think Sean is the perfect person for that. Research opportunities, internships. I bet you're going to talk about that in your 20-minute segment. Thank you. Okay, number three, I need to take all of my prerequisite courses. And okay, and the answer to that one is false. You need to take all of your prerequisite courses as an undergraduate student. You can take them after you graduate. Sometimes students don't even know that they want to be, let's say, a pharmacist, and there's a few classes that they may not have taken, like anatomy, physiology. You could take them at a junior college if you wanted to after you graduate. You could take it as an extension student at Cal State Fullerton, even though you're not an undergraduate student anymore. That's always a possibility. So you don't have to make all your decisions as an undergrad. You can change later. Number four, it's always better to graduate with, no, okay, yes. People will say, should I be a biochem major in public health? I should double major in those two. Or should I double major in business and, yeah, biochemistry? And I mean, you could, but honestly, does that make you that much of a better candidate for, let's say, optometry school? Not necessarily, no. I would say it's more getting good grades in the science classes and having relevant experience. Because if you double major, it just might take you more time. Now, if you love something, if you love business, maybe minor in it. That might be something you might want to do. Number five, research in a medically oriented area such as cancer, molecular biology is necessary in order to have a competitive medical school application. The answer to that one is false, because I've had students do things like psychology research, sociology research. You're not, and for that matter, you don't even have to have research to get into medical school. I would say it's highly preferable, but it's not an absolute mandatory thing, just so you know. Any kind of research where you use a scientific method, whether it be in psychology or public health or biochemistry, is fine. So, yep, but all the answers are false. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. A roadmap. So these are just some general thoughts of what you can do, little baby steps your freshman year, get some advising, go meet up with a couple of pre-health student organizations or follow them on Instagram. They all have Instagram accounts. Try out some community service. Maybe don't do too much because we don't want you to get overcommitted too soon. We want you to really get your academic stride and feel like you really know how to handle your coursework before you start getting majorly involved you'll have more capacity as you advance in your undergraduate degree. And then check out a few prerequisites commonly needed for some schools, and we can always talk about those things, and or the internet's always there to look such things up. So those are some ideas for your first year. It's perfectly okay to take a gap year. You don't have to worry about being too old to apply to these schools. When I was on the medical school admissions committee, I saw an applicant who was, I think, 60 years old. I'm serious. They were still being legitimately considered for medical school. So it's not too like, oh my God, I'm getting old. Just so you know. And I think that's it for me. I think if we go to the next slide, let's see. I think it's your turn, right,
I think
Jen?
there's one more.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Okie dokie. Oh yeah. Well, as I kind of said, if you could focus on your academic achievement your first year, really figure out what your learning style is so that you can really get some good grades from the get-go, that's going to be the most helpful for you. Don't suffer alone. It's funny because sometimes I think on a big campus you can feel more alone, but if you just ask, you'll find out where all the resources are, whether it be mental health resources, whether it be tutoring, whether it be supplemental instruction, even if you need some clothes. I mean, we have those kind of things. It's just a question of asking somebody who will point you in the right direction. Get involved, but don't get overly involved, but get involved, student clubs and hands-on experience in the professional. You'll need it, and it'll also get you more motivated, get you more focused. And don't rely on any one person for advice. Come to get advising. Don't solely rely on the internet because some information could have a very slanted perspective of an individual. So, I'd be a little bit, you could read that stuff, but you have to kind of, come and get advising basically. So, okay. I think that's all I have for now. So I'll let Shonda, she's like, okay, I need to go. Okay.
No, thanks, Dr. Mutapa. No, it's very helpful. No, definitely. Great. So I'll touch on the Career Center piece. If you aren't following the Career Center, I'd recommend you, get your phone and follow us on Instagram at CSUF Career. What I love about our office is basically I'm the specialist for the College of NSM, but we have a specialist for every single college at our school. And so we are a very big office that does a lot of events and more events than I can think of. So I always say follow the Instagram because that's where you can always find out the latest news on what's happening and staying up to date. We are open this summer. We offer something called drive-through services where it's basically drop-ins anytime Monday to Thursday, 11 to 1:45 in the summer, where if you just had a quick question, like maybe you just want your resume checked or just, just wanted to ask something, that's a great place to go. And then if you wanted more of a one-on-one appointment for at least 30 minutes, that's where you would schedule one online. And just to let you know, some of you may not have an account with the Career Center yet because you're new students. And so if you try to log in and realize you don't have an account, don't worry, it'll be there by the time you start school. I just know that not all the first year students are in the system yet. So with me being the career specialist, I meet with students to basically discuss things on like, what can I do with my major? If you need me to check your resume or cover letter before applying to a position, practicing interviews, looking for internships or jobs, graduate school, like when it comes to health profession school, I do read personal statements. I just read a student's personal statement for optometry school. And of course, after that appointment or at the end of the appointment, I'm like, okay, now you need to go talk to Dr. Mutapa next so she can look at it. Because like you'll notice that we tag team a lot and just refer each other because again, you have the option to meet with several people if you'd like to for these services. And I also help practice interviewing for a grad school. So like students will send me an email like, I have my dental interview next week. Can we practice beforehand? And I love doing those because that's a great chance for you to get your nerves out and for me to give you some like honest feedback. Because in reality, no one really gives you honest feedback in a real interview. They kind of can't. So a lot of people don't know if they're great interviewers unless you start practicing and get that kind of feedback. And LinkedIn profiles are becoming more and more popular. So if you want me to look at your LinkedIn profile or just to see how to make one, I can definitely help you with that. Another cool thing is, as Dr. Mutapa says, that she'll meet with students who have graduated already. I can also meet with students for 1 year after you graduate, which is a really great service because a lot of other offices aren't allowed to do that. And so since students who are taking a gap year, taking time off, that could be a great chance to meet with me. So like, for instance, like I'm meeting with students this summer who already graduated, but now they're working on their personal statement for graduate school, and they kind of want me to go over it. So for finding hands-on experience like internships and jobs or volunteering, the place that you'll go to is called Titan Connection, and that is the Career Center portal. So the good and bad thing at Cal State Fullerton is we have a lot of portals and names of things. So Titan Connection is the name of the Career Center one. So once you're logged into your Titan Connection account, that's where you can upload your resume and cover letter. So you can easily apply to jobs. You could even create a resume on there. You could search for companies and positions and also find our career events and workshops. And then I wanted to show you like how to actually look for a position. So once you log into your Titan Connection account, you'll see this left-hand sidebar here where you would open up the jobs tab and then click search jobs and internships. And say, for instance, you want to find a health professions opportunity. So and I would say to go to position type to filter things. I don't recommend you working full-time as being a full-time student, right? So for example, I just checked off, maybe I want to look for a part-time job, an internship for credit. During this COVID time, we've had specific COVID internships that were approved. There's also internships that are not college credit, where those companies aren't offering college credit, but they're still an internship. Maybe you just want to look for a community service volunteer, which I think is especially what first-year students should be looking for, is community service volunteer, and then, or maybe research opportunities, right? So that could be a great way to start searching. The next filter I recommend is job function. And then we have a job function called health education / promotion and health professions. So by selecting those, then you'll get a tailored list of health profession related opportunities. And that way you're not getting all these other types of positions. Another trick is once you create a job alert that you like, you can set up a job, you can actually create a job alert now. And so that way you can actually, by setting up the job alert, it'll just email you weekly or however often you want to set it up. And then it'll email you when a new position opens. And I really recommend doing that because what happens every year, I meet like a biology major who looks up one time and they get frustrated because like their job's not listed there. And then they never look back again. And the thing is, companies are constantly posting positions. So if you just set up a job alert, you can get notified when that position shows up in our database. So for those of you who are thinking about getting work experience as a pre-health student, I like to warn people that typically it's going to be not paid and it's expected to be volunteer, right? For those positions in healthcare that are paid, you'll usually need some type of license or certification for that profession because, healthcare is a very regulated profession. So the students I do meet with who are actually in paid positions in a hospital, typically, they're a nursing assistant or a medical assistant or EMT, phlebotomy technician, or pharmacy technician. Now, it's just as some ideas if maybe you're thinking of picking up a certification of those at a community college while you're a student. Sometimes I meet students who I actually met with a student who during this COVID time, he got his medical assistant certification while being a student here because it was virtual, because we were virtual COVID. And so I was like, oh, that's cool that he was able to use that opportunity to, go to a community college at the same time while he was a student here. And now he's working as a medical assistant before he applies to PA school. So to give you some ideas of where to get hands-on experience, a common place I'll recommend is called Cope Health Scholars. And I usually recommend them because they're a well-known formal program. It's volunteer. They take all levels from freshmen to graduates, and it'll give you clinical experience in a hospital where they actually will rotate you throughout the floors in a hospital setting where you work with nurses and physicians. They'll actually train you. You'll get a 30-hour intensive training program. And why I like to refer people to them is because they have partnerships with a lot of different hospitals in the area. So you can usually find a hospital, near your home or near Cal State Fullerton. And then just to let you know, like a lot of these type of programs have deadlines. You should, there's always going to be, and again, especially since they're hospital related, they're going to be very formal. So for instance, when I just checked on their website, already the fall volunteering is already past due. So the next opening right now is for winter. So say you want to start working with Copel Scholar as a winter, the deadline will be, oopsies, September 30th, right? And then they'll decide by October, admissions deadline, and then they'll train you in November, and then you'll be starting in December. So just to be on the lookout of deciding what term you want to actually volunteer, that's something you can look out and see the different dates that they have. Another organization that I liked, one of the students from the American Medical Student Association told me she is part of Student Scribes, and Scribes are basically the note taker for a doctor. And so there's this program called Student Scribes that was actually created by pre-med students. And so it's a volunteer program. And the nice thing what I like about it is that it'll allow you to directly shadow a private physician. So you'll get very close to that physician ideally because you'll only working with them compared to paid scribe positions where those I've heard you'll always be working with different people. It might be hard to actually get to know the doctors closely. This one, like for instance, the student I know, she meets with the same doctor every week. She also recommended it to me because it's not a huge time commitment compared to like working a 20 to 40 hour a week scribe position. The commitment is just 2 shifts a week for 4 hours each, so that's 8 hours a week commitment, and for at least 6 months. So these are great for pre-med, pre-nursing, or pre-PA students. And I know they recently just opened up their applications again because I know they were paused during COVID. Another place I'll mention is East West Medical Group has a great reputation with their campus of having an internship program. Volunteer, hands-on medical service. And the nice thing is it's an actual way to actually see a different style of medicine because they do integrative medicine where they have Eastern and Western medicine. And, so that's a great opportunity. I know they do give preference to senior students, but this can definitely be something you can look into and try to pursue as, one of your goals to do while you're at Cal State Fullerton. Another place I like to recommend is in the Time Connection, a lot of hospice centers always want volunteers. And when I read a lot of personal statements of students who volunteered at hospices, they have a very rich experience there. And so basically a hospice care are places where they serve terminally ill patients, and they're always looking for volunteers, especially to interact with their patients, right? Because a lot of these patients want companionship and some company. So here's an example of, a virtual internship that a hospice created. And really the idea was, basically you'd be providing virtual companionship. And so usually it would be just having like Zoom calls or doing workshops. Some students tell me sometimes they just read to them or just have activities with them. And so it could be just a really great way to see a healthcare system in a different setting. Another idea is you can look into volunteering at hospitals. So you can check out, a hospital near where you live to see about their volunteer process. And then I just put links for some of the local ones that are kind of near campus and their programs. So you'd want to just check out their programs. Oopsie, the links aren't working. Is the link working? Oh, actually that link didn't work, but you'll be able to look at it when I send the presentation over later on. Other ideas for pre-health students. So I know someone asked about some research programs or summer programs. Yeah, think about, especially NSM, like research is our bread and butter. That is what our college loves to do. So I usually say is try to look into doing research at our school first, and that will be just talking to your professors. And basically what you would do is just look at the faculty list for your department and read what their research is, and then contact them and see if you can join their lab. But typically, I would say for doing research, it's going to be more your sophomore year and higher, because the idea too is you need to learn the fundamentals. That's why you take the beginning level biology classes, because you need to learn lab skills first. So you can definitely try to see if you can get into a lab, but again, don't be offended if, you know, it's your first year and you don't get accepted to a lab, because typically it is geared more to like upper class students of junior or senior year. You can definitely look into applying to a summer research program, you know, and so a great place to start, I usually say, is the National Science Foundation website, where they have a list of summer research programs. It's great. They love actually for students to be applying like their sophomore year. So that could be great to like look into those. You can look into applying to a summer pre-health program. They have those all over the country. Usually I say that the tip is look at schools that actually have a medical school. So the schools with medical schools will usually try to offer some type of like health program. And then another thing, especially I think for first years, is thinking about volunteering in the community. And it doesn't have to be healthcare related, because really the idea with healthcare is you're going to be working with diverse populations. So you could start volunteering and working with different people, you know, and so a great place could be is a volunteer match, where you can find various opportunities, and that way you can start just getting experience now and adding that to your resume. An example summer program that is specifically for health profession students is called the Summer Health Professions Educational Program, called, I don't even know if it's called SHPEP. That's their acronym. But this is great for first years and sophomores to apply. And it's a program that takes place it takes students from all over the country. And it's a free program where they actually will have you take like, it's a summer enrichment program. So they'll actually help you take like some science courses, but also prepare you or give you guidance to going into the health field. Their focus is really helping underrepresented students, such as coming from a racially underserved community or low income, or an educationally disadvantaged background. So maybe if your school had like as actually example could be our school, because our school is considered a minority serving institution. We're a Hispanic serving institution. And so that can be considered an educationally disadvantaged background. And they take place at 12 different universities across the country. So that could be definitely a great program to look into applying. Other ways the Career Center can help you. So online resources. Put that in the chat. We have something called, oops, the links didn't work, but that's okay. Don't worry about that. But VMOC is a tool that the university purchased, where it uses artificial intelligence to scan your resume. So all you do is upload your resume, and it will give you an instant score from 0 to 100. And where I submitted mine when I started here, and my resume was actually poorly scored, and it gave me all these tips on how to fix it. And so it's very cool just to see, and it'll actually give you really great feedback on even on how to improve it, and it actually will help you change it if you'd like to. Another online tool we have is called Interview Stream, that lets you practice video interviewing on your own. And there's already a ton of pre-recorded interviews, including all the health professions. So if you go on there and want to find a medical school interview, it's already there. And they just have actors who've already pre-recorded the questions. And so basically, you press play, and then like an actor will say, tell me about yourself, and you have 2 minutes to respond. And then what's cool about it is that you can play it for yourself as soon as you answer it. So it's a great way for you to see yourself and see how you're actually your nonverbals and your verbal communication skills in an interview situation. And then you could even share it with your friends or family or whatnot like that. You can also set up individual appointments with me. Say you want me to look at your resume before applying to a position. Maybe you need help, applying for an internship or summer research programs. I do usually see students in their later stages of applying when it comes to reading their personal statements for grad school, and they also like practice interviewing, helping them practice their interviews. Another thing that we do is we do a lot of workshops too. And so we usually put together a series called Health Professions Exposed, which we work closely with Dr. Mutapa. Typically that will be in the spring semester, and that's like a link to our website where we'll have those things. And so those are great opportunities where we like to, invite health schools, admissions people to give advice. This picture here is that we always put a panel of students who actually get accepted into schools. And so that's really cool, of just seeing like our own students who now got in, and basically sharing advice to you all on what you can do. So those are always great things to attend. And then, Dr. Mutapa mentioned, like joining a student club, I think is really important for a pre-health student, because that way you get to know your tribe, your people that are just like you. And so we also at the Career Center, the student clubs, especially the health clubs, will request us to do workshops for them. So here's just a sample picture with the pre-dental club where they actually asked me to like do a practice interview session with them. So they're actually interviewing each other right now, just very casually. So if you're in a club and you would love me to come and do a workshop, I love doing that kind of stuff. That's always something we offer. And we also are the home of putting together the big career events that are our career fairs. But the career fair that I wanted to mention to you is we put on a graduate school expo, with a bunch of grad schools from all over the country, all over the world, right? Because even like some of these medical schools are like actually in different, like in the Caribbean. So the plan right now for fall is, I think we're virtual, but in the spring it might be a hybrid model. We're still waiting from the university to hear how large scale events will be handled. But I really recommend to think about going to a grad school expo. Our date will be Thursday, October 28th. Just examples of some of the schools that go there, and I was just looking at the numbers of NSM students it was only like 9 students who went last year from NSM. And I was just like, no, because it's like, this is a free opportunity and they want to talk to you. These health schools actually pay us hundreds of dollars to come talk to Cal State Fullerton students. And so I want you to talk to them too, because I also don't want them to say, you know what, I don't want to come visit Cal State Fullerton because only like a handful of students came to talk to me. So really take advantage of those opportunities because that's a great way for you to like learn more about their programs. Great, so now we can open it up to questions from you all. So if you can either unmute yourself and ask the question or put it in the chat, and then me and Dr. Mutapa can try to answer those.
I think they're just taking it all
I
in.
know.
Said a lot of stuff, good stuff. I'm glad you brought up the opportunity of the volunteer experience things because I've noticed a lot of students do go to East West and Cope and certain ones like that. Student Scribe.
Yeah, and it's just been funny because lately I'm meeting students who they forget to do any community service. Like and now they're coming to me after they graduate and are like, hey, can I actually get some volunteering done? And I'm like, yeah, definitely. But I was like, that's a great thing to do your first year is start volunteering in the community. Okay, I do have a question. This is actually for Dr. Mutapa. For pre-health minors, do you have to start your freshman year?
No, I mean, basically, I think a lot of you would have to take Chem 120A, Chem 120B, Bio 151, and a math class. And if you get a B or better in all 4 of those, you can apply and get into our minor. But then, of course, there's other classes that you have to do to fulfill the minor, some of which would correspond to your major. Some of it would correspond to general education, but then some of them are above and beyond either of the 2. But you can enroll in the minor as soon as you complete Chem 120B and you've got a B or better in it.
Someone had a question about the admissions office. I feel, yeah, sorry about that. It said they've tried emailing them multiple times, but they're not responsive. Do you know if their office is open in person?
Ooh.
I think admissions office is always there, but I don't know if they're actually seeing students.
I tried emailing them multiple times.
Yeah.
Emailing.
I would also say to try to call them,
Admissions.
I would say try to call before trying to go there or just see on their website if they say they're having open, off hours in person or whatnot. Cause I'm not totally sure. And we're not back on campus, but I do say August 1st, all staff do have to return to campus. So August 1st, admissions office should be operating in person for sure.
Yeah. I see the question, when is the best time to study for the MCAT? I will say this, the MCAT is good for 3 years. So if you take it to your whenever you take it, the score is good for 3 years. You want to take it after you've done chemistry, organic chemistry, biochemistry, physics, and biology. And if you've also taken psychology and or sociology is when you want to take the MCAT. But usually, so in terms of coursework, that's when you would wait to take it. But then you know, just generally speaking, applicants take the MCAT right about before the time they are going to apply. So yeah, admissions.
Yeah, sorry about the admission. I have heard the admissions office is short staffed too. So I'm just wondering, and I know,
Yeah,
yeah, and I do know, I do feel bad, but I know to be patient too, because you know we are the largest Cal State of all the California, so they're trying to like all the brand new students and all the current
and
students.
they probably have to triage in terms of the kind of questions they're being asked. It's funny, people ask me about their COVID test, and I'm like, oh, that's the wrong office. You know, that's the health. I don't handle the COVID immunizations. If I'm going to be an optometrist, should I try to get lots of volunteer hours, such as a scribe? I would say actually working or volunteering in an optometry office would be the best use of your time, in combination with some any kind of community service that you're interested in. I wouldn't say that scribing in particular is necessary, but if you want to do that in terms of experience, you could. Is there any opportunities for dermatology? Well, so dermatologists get medical degrees, so you would be applying to medical school. And there is a pre-dermatology club. I remember, I've seen it. So if you go on the Titan link, you will find a pre-dermatology club. Do you offer linkage programs for optometry? We're working on it with Western. It's happening very slowly, but we're trying to get one with Western for optometry.
Yeah, someone sent me a private message on where can they find on-campus jobs. So I just wanted to highlight that will be the Titan Connection portal. And basically when you go into position type, instead of you first on-campus job, you'll click student assistant on campus. And if those of you who actually got federal work study, there is a box down below that will say federal work study, and you'll want to check off that box and they'll show you positions that are open for students. Okay. Great. How do you get federal work study? And actually federal work study would be from your financial aid application. So financial aid awards students with finance for federal work study. How do I find the contact information for my GE advisors? Well, GE advisors will be the General Academic Advising Center. I could even pull up that website. The GE advisors are at the Academic Advising Center. Great, and we could. Does anyone else have any last questions?
For volunteering, is it better to start freshman year or sophomore year?
I mean, anytime's really, there's not really, yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's up to you. I think a big thing I think Dr. Mutapa and I are also trying to stress is, first thing is we really want to make sure you get used to school. You know, being a college student, it's a whole new world, right? And so I really want you to like do well in your classes and also decide, can you now handle volunteering in the time, So sometimes usually, for instance, like with like say a bio major, sometimes I would say summer is a good time to look into it your first year, and that way you're not taking a busy load and you have the time to do it. But again, it's kind of up to you to decide, because some people like to be busy and they're like, yeah, I could volunteer because that's going to be motivating to me while I'm in school. Then definitely, if you feel like you could take that on. Dr. Mutapa, what do you think?
I agree. I think at the very least, regardless of where you are at, I mean, just to explore what's out there so that you could dive in, as soon as you're ready. Whenever, if for you, it could be right away, or it could be a little later because it's just a little overwhelming, or maybe it takes a little longer to park your car than you thought it would, or it takes you a little bit more time to study for these classes than high school was. So yeah, I would say just at least explore for now. And even follow some of the student organizations on Facebook. You can follow things on, Instagram and whatever, and just kind of see what's out there.
Yeah, that's what I love about joining the clubs too, because then you could actually meet like upper class students who will probably recommend to where to volunteer, or like they'll bring in guest speakers, and then that way you can learn about different opportunities before and then have a great place to volunteer at. Since bio classes are in high demand, I was able to take bio 151. Will I get priority next summer for the class because I'm a bio major? That would be more of a question for the, your major advising, but basically, yeah, the idea would be you be taking it next semester in the spring, when, that opportunity comes. I don't know necessarily if you get priority, idea, because registration is still by your amount of units that you have.
And there's probably fewer people, well, I shouldn't even speak too soon, but my guess is that fewer people take bio 151 in the spring, and you would get it in the spring, because most freshmen are taking it their first semester, which is the fall. So we can't promise, though.
Yeah, I can't remember. Hopefully, yes. You can take anyone have one last question they'd love to answer? Not, it's okay.